Welcome to the Space for Grace podcast, a place where you can come as you are, hear genuine conversations about women's holistic health, and leave educated, inspired, and encouraged about your health and fitness journey. Get ready to find freedom to flourish in your physical, mental, and spiritual health. I'm your host, MK, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Space for Grace. Everyone, welcome back to the Space for Grace podcast. I'm so excited to have my friend Shaela on today. Shaela is a certified personal trainer who believes that every woman can build a healthy and fit lifestyle, no matter what season of life they're in. Shaela knows what it feels like to want to reach her health and fitness goals, only to fall short and never be satisfied. Her fitness journey left her depleted, anxious about her health, and trapped in an endless cycle of losing and gaining weight that caused her to find a better way in the wellness world. Over the past 10 years, she's helped numerous women find freedom in their health and fitness journey, to go from striving to attain a certain goal weight or physique to finding joy in movement and food without obsession. I love that, Shaela. I absolutely love what you do, and I know that we have a little bit of similar stories. So I would love to just start out with you sharing a little bit about how you got into the fitness world as a Christian. And I know we're going to talk more in a minute about how your faith and fitness go hand in hand, but how did you go from, I know you were in ministry before, how did you go from that into fitness?
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Madison, for having me on the podcast, or we call you MK in the Struggle Collective, Trainer MK. But yes, so I was called to full-time ministry when I was like full-time vocational ministry, working in a church when I was in college. And I went to a seminary out in Fort Worth, Texas to get my master's degree. And that's actually a great question, a part of kind of what we're going to talk about today. And it was out there that I ended up meeting my now husband, and I was doing children's ministry. I graduated and moved. He was still there. I was working full time at a church in Tampa, Florida. And then he, a semester later, graduated and ended up moving to work full time at a church in Lakeland, Florida, which is only about 45 minutes away from Tampa. And so the Lord just kind of confirmed in that move and everything. We'd kind of been dating. And then when he started interviewing, we were like, okay, I think this is for real. And we all have plans in life, right? It was never my plan to marry a pastor because I was like, first of all, ministry doesn't get paid much. Second of all, if my husband's in ministry, how am I going to be in ministry? Because it's, usually competing ministries. So the Lord had to wrestle. I had to wrestle with that for a while when we got married in 2017. And we actually were both on staff at different churches in 2017 for the first 9 months of our marriage, which I would not recommend for anyone. However, it was very unique circumstances that we had, and it wasn't intentional, but they were having a hard time finding someone to replace me in my position, and we were kind of waiting to see what kind of doors the Lord would open up for me in Lakeland. And it was in that 9 month season where we were both in ministry that the Lord really was like, I want you to be able to serve alongside your husband. And I want you to be able to do something that you can be home with your kids one day. We knew we would want to have kids, and whatever that looked like through adoption or able to have them physically. And so I just kept praying. I was like, okay, Lord, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And while I was in seminary, I had started CrossFit and loved CrossFit, kept doing it when I left seminary, and actually did some Orange Theory there for a while too, and kind of just dabbled in different types of exercises. And I was like, why don't I just go get my CrossFit level 1? Like, why not? The Lord's kind of calling me to serve it with you in ministry and talking to my husband. And so I just was like, I'm just going to sign up for it. There was a class, and I think it was in St. Pete actually, and there's somewhere close to Tampa, and I signed up for it. I registered, I went, I passed, I became a CrossFit level 1 trainer, and I was like, all right, what's next? And I really felt like with that, the Lord, in that I didn't feel like I felt educated enough to help someone with their physical fitness, because it was, of course, the CrossFit methodology, and I love that and I support it. But I didn't feel safe training someone, and so I was like, I want to go get some more education. And so
Hmm.
that catapulted in 2018 me going and getting, taking different classes and getting certified with my personal trainer, my prenatal, my postpartum. I started working with prenatal clients first with an agency right outside Tampa, St. Pete area. And then in 2019, I ended up launching my own online company. But knowing my in person clients, I knew from church, most of them were from church. But when I launched in 2019, my company, I really wanted to incorporate my faith into it. I didn't really know what that looked like then,
Hmm.
but now looking back, I'm like, oh, okay, like the Lord had so much in store, and so that was that. You know, long story short, not really. Long story long. That was really how the Lord just brought me into the health and the fitness world, and I was never a fitness person growing up. I didn't do anything except for socially run when I was in college, but the Lord can change everyone. I am living
Yes.
proof of it.
That's amazing. I love how
Hmm.
he was just in every little detail to bring you where you're at today. As you were kind of making that transition and deciding to get more into fitness, did you kind of have in the back of your mind any hesitations because of your faith? Were there any like weird beliefs about fitness as a Christian? How did you think through that process?
Yeah. So I don't know if I necessarily had any like quote unquote weird beliefs, but I will say I wrestled for years with the fitness industry and the advertising in the fitness industry. And
Hmm.
my personal clients that I came in contact with, and I think this was just how the Lord orchestrated it, but they all had struggled with body image or a fixed mindset or mentality of like the number on the scale has to be a certain way. And
Hmm.
in my heart and in my mind, I was like, there has to be something better about this. Like this isn't what it's about. But that's
Yeah.
what they wanted. And so for me, it was like, well, I have not that I have to serve it, but kind of like this is my job. Like I'm here to help you lose weight if that's what you want. Like I'm a service provider. If you
Hmm.
want this, let's do it. But it was a struggle for me, really reconciling in my heart, like, okay, Lord, we both have faith. This client has faith. I have
Hmm.
faith. We're both Christians, but here they are struggling with the scale. Here they are trying to build these habits and really not focusing on these habits, but focusing more so on like, okay, how am I losing weight? Am I losing inches? How are my clothes fitting? Like how many more calories do I need to cut? Like all of these things. And that led me to really dive deeper into, okay, Lord, what do you have to say about our bodies? What Where do our priorities have to be? And how do I teach women to do that too? And through
Yeah.
that, we're going to talk about this a little bit later too, but through that, he helped me build this not template, I wouldn't say curriculum, but just this theme of what I call holy health habits with my
Hmm.
clients, and that with my in-person people, online people, that I really began working through to help them see and marry and
Hmm.
integrate their faith, their Christian walk with their health and their fitness journey, and help alleviate some of that pressure too on their bodies, because women have so
Yeah.
much pressure on their bodies, and it just doesn't have to be there,
Hmm.
you know?
Yes. There can be so much freedom in it. And yeah,
Mhm.
I love what you were saying about going from that mindset of just focus on the result to how can we create this healthy lifestyle and have, sustainable habits and just a mindset of it's so much more than our looks and our weight. So
Mhm.
let's talk a little bit more about that. What are these holy, healthy habits that you've kind of formed for your clients? What's that look like?
Yes. Yeah. So it starts with your spiritual disciplines.
Hmm.
And those, just to kind of give a brief overview of what spiritual disciplines are, they're the practices that help us grow and closer to Christ, to the Lord, deepen our faith. They're these internal, I mean, type actions that we're cultivating, that we're doing and cultivating their habits, essentially spiritual habits that we're cultivating to help improve our faith, improve our walk, improve our physical health as well. But these practices, they're there's a lot of different kinds out there, but I typically focus on just, I think there's about 8 of them, which is like reading your Bible, prayer, worship, evangelism, serving, stewardship, fasting, silence and solitude, and then journaling. So quite a lot of them there, but a lot of us practice them and don't even realize it if we're Christians, like reading the Bible. We know, hey, we need to read our Bible if we're a believer, or we need to pray,
Mhm.
like we want to do that. And so they're not just like things that we try to check off a list, but they are the means through which we experience God's grace, His joy,
Mhm.
His peace, His abundance in our lives. And when we consistently engage in these practices, we're building this strong foundation for our faith and creating this deeper relationship with the Lord. And so, bridging that gap with our physical health habits, we talk a lot. The industry is kind of moving a little bit. And I know you sense this, Madison, with just habits in general. Before it was very aesthetic, results driven, like we need to look a certain way a certain way. Like the industry has been shifting a little bit to these habit based physical, wellness programs or whatever. And that's a good
Mhm.
thing. And so that's really where, when I went to seminary, started CrossFit, that's really where the Lord married these two of like physical habits and my spiritual habits at the same time.
Mhm.
And simply put, he integrated those for me so that I could end up teaching that to others. And as we're building our spiritual disciplines, we actually are building skills. If anyone has ever tried to, and this, Madison is a trainer, but if anyone has ever tried to, create a goal for themselves in any capacity, but, physical goal, they know they have to break that goal down into something. So, like, we have a big overarching goal, lose 20 pounds. Okay, well, what are the skills that I need in
Mhm.
life to break that, down? And it's going to be move often, move well. It's going to be strength train 3 to 4 times a week. It's going to be, XYZ. And then those
Mhm.
skills are broken down into these mini habits that we do day in and day out to help us then build these skills every day for everyday life that then help make up the goal. So there's this whole process of how we actually reach a goal. And so with that, these skills that we're building in our spiritual disciplines are the same skills that we can use in our health and our fitness journey. And it's identifying those and seeing, okay, wow, oh, I already have this skill. How can I apply that to my health and fitness journey? And I do want to caveat first, often we can build skills and habits in our health and our fitness first before we build them in our walk with Christ. And we really want to try to build them in our walk with Christ first. But if
Mhm.
you've already built them somewhere, somehow, you can do it in either capacity. You can do it in your walk with Christ. You can do it in your physical health. And so you can have both our spiritual and our physical habits lead us to grow closer to God, to this whole healthy lifestyle that we just talked about that brings freedom, it brings abundance. And that's the end goal for most Christian women, even if they don't realize it, is that their
Mhm.
end goal is, hey, in 10 years, where do you want to be? We're always asking our clients that, in 10 years, where do you want to be? They want to be active. They want to be whole. They want to feel free in their body. They don't want to be defined by the scale. They want to feel abundant in their life. They want to be chasing after grandkids or their kids, or taking them to baseball games and doing all these things and have the energy and the capability to do it. And so these spiritual disciplines that we're building with reading our Bible and prayer, and those are two specific ones I'll talk about a little bit later, but they guide our hearts into this closeness with the Lord inwardly. And then our healthy physical habits guide our bodies into closeness with the Lord outwardly. And that's something I often say, is that our, physical health is an outward working of an inward change. And so while God is doing the work inwardly, and we need him to be doing that work inwardly so that we feel satisfied, confident, bold, courageous, all of those things, we are given the task, we are given the gift of doing it outwardly. And
Mhm.
these disciplines, these spiritual disciplines or spiritual habits, are the tools first to help us as believers be sanctified in our walk. And those healthy habits that we're also building are the tools for pursuing a healthy body. And
Mhm.
so, neither of them, and I do want to say this, point this out, neither of them matter. Our spiritual disciplines, our healthy habits, neither of them matter if we don't have purpose. And the purpose of our spiritual disciplines is for godliness, becoming more like him. The purpose of our healthy habits are for a body to live out that godliness. And that's one
Mhm.
thing that we so often we talk about having a body. And yes, we do have a body, but actually we are a body. And so everything the Lord is calling us to do in our lives as believers, whether it's to be a wife or a mom or, a partner in ministry or an entrepreneur or a CEO, whatever it looks like, we need our body to do that. And so while he's doing that inward change, we are tasked and given the gift and opportunity to work, with our body to
Mhm.
be able to live out what the Lord has called us to do.
Mhm.
And so all of that, the Lord is our spiritual disciplines are an immediate application for our health habits. And
Mhm.
it's just this beautiful, like with our disciplines, it's this beautiful relationship we have with the Lord to see that grace, that abundance, that joy that I've mentioned, and work hard with our hands and with our heart, and so that we can reap a harvest in our relationship with him. And it's the same thing in our body. Like when we work hard with our hands in our body and for the kingdom, we're going to reap the results of that, which is good health. It's, hopefully preventing osteoporosis as women, narrowing down like our chronic health issues like you with PCOS, like it's helping us live that full and abundant life in Christ. And those health habits are the backbone of growing a whole healthy life that we can enjoy living and feel abundant in.
Mhm.
But it's a both and it all goes back to the skills we're developing in the our spiritual disciplines that really we can then transfer over into our health habits.
Mhm. I remember there was a specific moment for me driving in the car. I think it was after I had been diagnosed with PCOS. And, I grew up in the church and with a relationship with God. So I knew what the spiritual disciplines were. And I was very much like the good girl of like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I read my Bible, I pray, I do all these things. But for me, focusing on fitness was a little more taboo, I want to say, like a little more, it was less important, which it is less important than spiritual health.
Right, right.
But it was in that moment in the car where I realized, oh, I'm a mind, a body, and a spirit. And if
Mm,
one of those areas of health is off, it's going to affect all the other areas because
yep.
it's all interconnected. And that was
Mm-hmm.
just such a light bulb moment for me of like, it's not vain or a bad thing to also prioritize my mental health or my physical health, just like I
Mm-hmm.
prioritize my spiritual health. Because, like you were saying, if one of those areas is off, it's going to keep us from living out our full potential for the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to do what He's calling us to do to the best of our ability. So
Yeah.
I love just how it's all connected. It's all important, and when we have the right purpose of glorifying the Lord, then
Mm.
there's meaning to it all. There's meaning to moving our bodies and to eating well and to taking care of our inward and our outward self.
Yeah. And there's a quote that as you were saying that came to mind where it's body is for ability, not vanity. And I think if
That's
anyone were to
good.
take something away from this conversation, like as a Christ follower, that is it. And
Mhm.
even if you're not a Christ follower, like your body is still for the ability of what you feel called to do wherever you are in whatever season. And we can get so caught up in the vanity side of it, the aesthetics, the results, the tracking, that we forget like we are a body and we're meant to live in it and to enjoy it and feel free in it.
Right. That's so good. Would you be able to give us an example or maybe a few examples of how a spiritual discipline kind of translates over into the physical discipline and vice versa?
Yes, yes. So I'm gonna give two. I have a whole series on my podcast. It's called Move Your Body Differently, where I walk through all of them, and they're all called Holy Health Habits. So anybody can go back and listen to all of them. But the first one is like I call it the underlying skill we need in our health and our fitness journey and in our walk with Christ. And this first spiritual discipline is Bible reading. And so with that, the skill that we are actually cultivating when we are reading our Bible regularly is the skill of planning and preparing. Because, if we really want to have an intentional walk with Christ, we have to plan for time with Him. We have to plan to be in the Word and know Him. And this skill in and of itself is the how before the what. And so I can tell you, hey, serve and, celebrate and, go uh, count your wins or whatever, evangelize, do these things. Those are all the what we do in our spiritual walk. But what's the how? How do we know that this is the right thing to do? How do we know what we're doing when it comes to our walk with Christ? And the skill we're developing here is that how, that planning, that preparing. And so, you have to know where you're going to know where the Lord, or you have to know where the Lord is, which is the Bible, and who he is in order to know where he wants you to go. And so you do
Mm-hmm.
that through reading his word. And there isn't, applying that to our health and our fitness, that skill of planning and preparing is the exact skill we need to have a healthy and whole lifestyle. Because if we don't plan for it or prepare for it, we aren't going to have it. And that's why we have so much of this yo-yo diet cycle, of diet and fitness, that we start and then we stop, we start and then we stop, because we don't plan. Now, we may plan, but we don't plan for our unique life and our busy schedule, or we're holding off on planning and preparing for a perfect time or a time that's better than now. And I hate to break it to you,
Mm-hmm.
but there's never going to be a better time than now. Wherever you are in life, it doesn't matter. It's only going to keep getting busier. And so there's never going to be that, this is the moment time. So you have to plan and you have to prepare, but it has to be unique to your own lifestyle. And there isn't, this is obvious, but it's pretty profound. There is not a healthy and fit person out there who doesn't plan or prepare these things in advance. It sounds
Mm-hmm.
simple, and it's easy. For those of us who are planners, we're probably like, "Oh, that's easy. I can plan and prepare." But in reality, like after working with clients for over 5 years, this is actually the hardest skill for women to develop, because the busyness of life gets in the way and they plan and prepare for perfection, and it's never
Mm-hmm.
going to be perfect. And so the planning, that's why I'm so adamant that we have to plan and prepare for our season. Like, you plan and prepare knowing sickness is in mind. You plan and prepare knowing there's a conference coming. I'm thinking about my own life right now. I have 3 kids, all under the age of 4. And I have to plan and prepare knowing, okay, I can't do 4 workouts a week right now because that's too hard, because I'm still catching up on sleep from having a baby. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I know my husband's going to be gone for the next 3 weeks or something, not that he is, but just an example. I have
Mm-hmm.
to plan and prepare for reality. And we don't want to do that as women. We want the situation that's going to all align. We want to be able to meal prep on Sunday evenings. And now, if you're married, don't have kids, whole lot easier to do, right? Like meal prep. We still meal plan, but we don't prep because we like our kids to be involved with it. And so things change in different various seasons of life. But, it sounds so easy, but it's actually the hardest, but yet the most foundational skill that we can have in our health and our fitness journey, just as it is with our spiritual discipline of reading the Bible. It sounds so easy, like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll read the Bible. But to actually stay consistent and to plan and prepare for the weeks ahead of making that, setting aside that time to do that with him, can be one of the hardest things we do, because in life, everything takes, it takes from us, life takes from us. And that's, we have to plan and prepare that in order to be fueled by the Lord and be filled up by the Lord, so that when life takes, we have something it's taking from, And so I know you would agree with this, but you can't wing it. You can't wing it in health and
Mm-hmm.
fitness. Like, it's just not, some people do and get results, in some capacity, but lifelong, you can't wing it. You need a plan, and you did a podcast episode recently even about progressive overload. And like, that's huge in planning and preparing in your fitness journey. You need progressive overload in order to see results. And so
Mm-hmm.
all of this comes together when we build this skill of planning and preparing with our Bible reading. We are building this skill that we can then transfer into, okay, I'm doing really well. I know how to plan for the various seasons of life with reading my Bible. I can do this in my health and fitness too. And so one thing that I did want to, Zechariah 4:10, it's one of my favorite verses. It says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin, to see the plumb line in Zerubbabel's hand." And we have to start small, and that's okay. Like, sometimes you can
Mm-hmm.
start big in certain seasons, but starting small is good and it's honorable, and we can plan for small and feel good about that. And so just a few examples of like ways you can plan in your health and your fitness journey is to just spend a few minutes every Sunday night. I said this example about meal prepping, but you can do that, spend a few minutes every Sunday evening, either meal planning or prepping, or just even looking at your week ahead and saying, okay, what does this week look like? Grab a calendar, have all your dates written on it, all your meetings, appointments, all of those things, and then schedule your appointments with yourself. Here's where I'm going to spend time with the Lord. Here's where I'm going to exercise, and base it off of your days too. Like, hey, you may not
Mhm.
be able to do a 30 to 45-minute workout every single day, but maybe 2 days a week, like for myself, I'm doing a 30 to 45-minute workout. And then the other 2 days a week, I'm doing like a 5-minute workout because I just want to make sure I'm moving my body. And so make time, plan ahead. Another thing is create and use systems. This is one of my favorite things in the world. But to plan for your health, like to make it easier, we so often get overwhelmed, but to make it easier, we can plan and create systems in our home, like a meal planning system or, a schedule of our workouts that works for us, a time of day that works for a morning routine or a nighttime routine. A nighttime routine sets you up for the morning and vice versa. Your morning routine sets you up for the entire day. Like create and use a system that works for you in your season of life. But to do that, you have to plan and prepare for that. And one way that
Mhm.
we do that is through meal planning. Like I have, a home binder that we have. I basically run our home like a business, but in a good way, where I have a binder where it just takes the thoughts out. Like I don't have to think too much. I don't get overwhelmed. We have a staple breakfast menu that every once in a while I'll go and change. Staple lunch menu for me and my husband and our kids. And then we have a rotating dinner menu. And then we have a snack list because my kids eat snacks all the time. Like create those, and then I have a cleaning list. Like these are the days I do X, Y, and Z. And if I forget that day, I just go to the home binder. I'm like, okay, today's a vacuum day. Let me go vacuum, like create and use systems to do that. So that's the first example. The second example I'll just mention briefly is, I say briefly, we'll see, but is prayer. So the spiritual discipline of prayer. That
Mhm.
is Colossians 4:2 tells us to devote ourselves to prayer. And the way that I'm going to apply this to our health and our fitness and the skill that we're building in prayer is the skill of awareness. And that is so key, like I keep talking about in the planning and preparing, like for the seasons, different seasons. Awareness is how you adapt to the seasons. So you plan for your season and then it's going to change. And then you have to adapt. And so you need awareness to be able to adapt to the plan. And
Mhm.
so in our spiritual discipline, I think I said this, Colossians 4:2, devote yourselves to prayer, is the verse. And we're all devoted to different things in life. It will vary from person to person, but we're all devoted to some things or many things, little things, big things, small. We make something a priority when we want it, like reading the Bible, planning out our week or our days. We're willing to sacrifice for it. If you're willing to sacrifice for it, you will give time for it. And what the question is for our health and our fitness, what are you giving time to in your health and your fitness that may not need to be there? Are you giving time to the number on the scale? Are you giving time to the perfectionism of the plan? Or are you aware enough in the middle of it to be able to adapt and change with the seasons? And with spiritually what that looks like in order to have connection and communication with the Father, now that we're knowing him through reading the Bible, reading the word, in order to continue to connect and commune with him, we need prayer, and we need to be communicating with him, because he's going to in that moment help us be consciously aware of moments with people or opportunities to share the gospel, or awareness of our own needs, our own brokenness, our own sin that we need to seek forgiveness for, or lies that we're believing, things like that. That prayer is going to help reveal the season we're in and the things that need working on. And in the same way, we need to be in communication with our bodies and being aware of our bodies, its needs. And that moves health speaking, that moves more towards intuitive eating, which is that awareness where we listen to our bodies and we focus on what doesn't make it feel good, what gives us energy, all of those things. But it's all a part of regulating our behaviors spiritually and personally, and then also in our health and our fitness. And so you need that awareness in order to adapt to the seasons. And so um, the quick fire facts of ways you can do that practically in your health and your fitness journey to become aware is to eat slowly and mindfully. Do something in between your bites to help understand, okay, how does this food make my body feel? Or even in exercise when you're doing a movement like, oh, I feel a little tweak in my knee. And like taking a moment to think, okay, is this painful or is this just different because I don't move in this way normally? And so, eating slowly and mindfully or exercising slowly and mindfully and asking questions as you go, like, how does this feel? What is this, teaching yourself to be in tune with your body. And then another one is eating to satisfied, which is really hard to do because eating till satisfied means you get to a point in your meal and you're like, okay, wait, am I full? Am I satisfied? Am I stuffed? Am I still hungry? And you have to ask these questions and raise awareness to, okay, where does my body feel anything right now, and like where is it at? And that's so hard because so many of us have lost touch with our bodies because we're so used to dieting and only eating a certain number of calories, and then we binge eat, and we have disordered eating in all of these ways. And so eating until satisfied and teaching yourself to be aware in your meals, be aware in your workouts, that all comes from the same skill of prayer that we're doing in our spiritual disciplines as well. And so those are just a few of very practical, this is the skill we're building, this is how it translates into our health and our fitness, and some takeaways of like, okay, here's how you can implement that today.
I love that. I've never really heard it explained that way before. I think I was aware of, oh, if you're a disciplined person in general in one area of your life, that is most likely going to bleed over into other areas. But it's really
Hmm.
cool how you've broken it down into specific skills. And I'm all about efficiency. So if I can
Yeah.
create one skill that I can use in multiple areas of my life, I'm all
Hmm.
about that. That's so cool. And the awareness one is so good because I think we've all at some point in our lives really lost touch with our bodies because we're so like busy, go, go, go
Hmm.
all the time. And prayer really is a difficult discipline because it
Yeah.
requires us to stop, to slow down, to, not prioritize other things like our to-do list or, what
Hmm.
we have going on that day. It really is a difficult discipline in today's day and age to stop and slow down and do that. And so it goes the same with our physical health as well, being aware of our needs and should I say yes to this event or not? And should I maybe block off some time to take a break and
Yeah.
just like let myself be human?
Hmm.
Um, so I love
Yeah.
that. So if any listeners do not currently have any spiritual disciplines yet, where do you suggest they start?
Yes. So I would start at the beginning, which is reading the Bible. That and prayer. And that's part of why I gave those two examples, because those really are the foundational skills, both in our spiritual walk, but also the skills in our health and our fitness that are going to do the most for us long term. Like if we can build those skills, they aren't an XYZ kind of skill, like if I were to tell you, like, eat 120 grams of protein a day, that's like the what. Like, I'm telling you, okay, do this. These are the how behind the what. They are like, how do we build this relationship with the Lord first? How do we build this healthy and fit lifestyle and build it lifelong? Like, we don't want short term. While we may want short term results, we really want, at the end of the day, all of us really want a healthy and whole lifestyle lifelong. And so these are the skills that everything else is going to bounce off of. Any other skills you're building in health, fitness, your relationship with the Lord, these are the foundation, the stepping stones, so to speak, of those other ones. And so I would say start there. But I want to also encourage, like, you don't have to do just one. Like, you don't have to just do Bible reading and then build that skill in health and fitness. Like, you can do them simultaneously. And the Lord, while the Lord had taught me like Bible reading before, I learned these skills in health and fitness, like he really used both at the same time to build a healthy whole lifestyle from the inside out. And when I mean healthy whole lifestyle, I mean physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. While I was doing both, he really
Mhm.
taught all of those other things. And so you can build both practices at the same time. You don't have to do one or the other. But if you're in a little bit of a time crunch, start with the Bible reading and start small. And from there, you can build onto that. Start small with the Bible reading, like 5 minutes a day. And then if you're like, okay, I did 5 minutes. Now, this is a personal conviction, but so not everyone, feels this way about it, and it's not stated in the Bible at all. It's just a personal thing the Lord dealt with me about a while ago, several years ago. But he kind of made the point for me of like, if you are spending more time intentionally on your body rather than intentionally with me, something's wrong. And so for
Mhm.
me, my goal has always been, okay, like if I am spending 30 minutes in a workout, I need to spend at least 30 minutes in the Word with Him. And so if I can't take an hour to do both, okay, how
Mhm.
much time can I take? Okay, then I need to, if I have 30 minutes, okay, then I can do a 15-minute workout and I can spend 15 minutes in the Word. And some days I may need to be in the Word all 30 minutes of that, like if he's telling me something else I need to be doing. But, you
Mhm.
know,
That awareness.
yeah, that awareness, exactly, that skill, that prayer. But we can so often get caught up in the all or nothing mentality, and I've got to be able to do all of it, and I need to do all that, like build all these skills, but you have to start somewhere and start small. And
Mhm.
if that means 5 minutes of Bible reading a day, awesome, 5 minutes of Bible reading, then maybe you can do 5 minutes of a movement or an exercise or a workout. 5 minutes counts. Like, don't discount the small things. And that goes back to that scripture in Zechariah of don't discount the small things or the small beginnings. We all can start somewhere. And so, you know, there's always a point to starting small, to starting somewhere, to adapting and being aware of your life, your circumstances. And so I would start there, Bible reading,
Mhm.
prayer, taking 5 minutes a day, and then going and moving 5 minutes. Maybe it's a walk. And some days, maybe you listen to the Bible while you walk. I am a huge, again, this is a personal conviction. I love being in the Word, in the Bible. I do think He calls us to read it, but there's something special about moving our bodies and also listening and being, as we're working energy out, we're pouring scripture in and replacing things that we're moving out. And so I think moving our bodies and doing that at the same time that we're working on these spiritual disciplines is can be huge for our walk with the Lord and in our health and our fitness. So whatever that looks like for you, however you like to move, just spend a few minutes doing one of those and a few minutes doing the other.
That's so good. We have
Mhm.
to prioritize both physical and spiritual health. And
Yeah.
so, looking realistically at, say, your morning routine, how much time do I have to still get enough sleep, wake up, and then by the time I wake up and the time I have to leave for work or whatever it is,
Hmm.
and breaking that up realistically, like, okay, this is going to take this much time, making breakfast, moving my body, having my time with the Lord,
Hmm.
and just starting wherever you can. That's so good what you were saying about, not it's not about being perfect and we don't need to wait until we have an hour to go to the gym every morning. That's
Right.
just not realistic for most people. And so
Mm-mm.
what can we do now to start creating those habits that are going to be sustainable and help us have healthy lifestyles long term?
Yeah,
That's
and
so good.
I will 100% I don't know if that's the right word, but I will vouch 100% and say this with like absolute confidence and certainty. If you are feel like you're in the busiest season of your life, now is the absolute best time to build your health and your fitness because
Mhm.
if you can build your health, your fitness, your spiritual disciplines, a little bit at a time in the busiest season of your life, then
Mhm.
when scenarios and situations look awesome and you're not so busy, guess what? It's going to be way easier in those seasons and you're going to be so thankful for them. And then
Mhm.
you have actually built a healthy and whole lifestyle lifelong. So, so even with, with one-on-one training, like we want everything has to align. Oh, my kids are going back to school in August, or oh, this will happen and I'll do it then, or oh, my kid's going into college. I'm like, they gonna be in college for 4 years, and then you got three more
Right.
kids after that. Like, they gonna be in college. That's like a whole lot of time that they're gonna be in college. You gonna wait till after they're out of college to
Mhm.
build this lifestyle? And don't wait, don't wait. That's
Mhm.
my, if I have parting words, like, don't wait. If you're in a busy season, great. Use that busy season to your advantage. Teach yourself how to do it now, and then you're gonna lock in this healthy fit and spiritually, your walk with Christ. You're gonna lock in a lifestyle for it because you are willing to do small things now in the hard.
That's so good. Thank you so much, Shayla, for sharing all your
Yeah.
words of wisdom with us today. I will put all of your links in the description for everyone to be able to find your 5 Day Fitness Faith and Fuel Challenge and some other ways to connect with you as well. So thank you so much for being
Yes.
here.
Thanks for having me. Am I allowed to call you MK on the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for having me, MK. She's like our cool, if for those of you listening, she's like our cool, hip, like trainer in the Stronger Collective app.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
she's awesome.
I'm the baby of the group. It's cool.
But it's the best because you also are trendy. So we're like, oh, we need to call MK and figure out if this is like trendy or not.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for calling me trendy because I
Yeah.
feel like I'm so old already.
No,
Trying to keep
not
up.
girl. Not yet. Not yet.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Space for Grace podcast. Be sure to check out the description for any links or resources that were mentioned during this episode. And if you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe, share with a friend, and leave a review. I hope you're leaving today educated, inspired, and ready to flourish. This is Space for Grace.